In this video, we'll set up our first material and work inside the node graph. To get started, let's clear these two other inputs we dropped in. And this time I'll bring the same material in, but only the albedo and height information. We'll be generating the other maps with nodes. To navigate around the graph, we'll be using the middle mouse button to pan around and the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. One important concept to keep in mind is the blue outline around the node. This indicates that a node or group of nodes are selected. This becomes important later on when we begin adding nodes to the chain. To deselect, I will just click off onto an empty part of the graph, double-clicking to select and view in both viewports. If you're unfamiliar with creating materials, to put together a full material, generally the maps required are albedo, normal, roughness, height, and ambient occlusion. Also a metallic map if we're working with a metallic surface. Because we're only using two maps here, albedo and height, we need to generate the other channels in ArtEngine. In our case, the albedo can give us a roughness map that we can work with. The height will give us a normal map and ambient occlusion map. Let's see how we can do this inside our graph. So with our height selected, as indicated by the blue outline, in the left toolbar, I'll find the normal generation node and drag it into the graph area. Because I had the height map selected, it automatically linked the node upstream. If we double click, we can see we have our normal map generated. This time I'll add a node without having it connected upstream. I'll do this by deselecting by clicking onto an empty area. And instead of using the left toolbar, I'll this time press spacebar to bring up the quick access menu. Here I can search the node I want by typing it in. We'll type in ambient occlusion, and because we had nothing selected, it brought the node into the graph without any other links. Let's input the height into the node, and now we have our ambient occlusion. For a final map, I'll click the albedo and bring in the roughness generation node. And again, because I had the albedo selected, the added node automatically linked up. Now that we have all the necessary maps for our material, we need to compose them together into a single node. This is called the Compose Material node in ArtEngine. Now we can hook up the appropriate maps to the corresponding channels by click and dragging like so. When I double click on the Compose node, we can see the full material in our viewport. We'll just adjust some settings. And view our channels in the 2D window. Now, having to wire up all the nodes to compose a material can be time consuming. So instead, we can select all our nodes, right-click on top of one of the selected nodes, and choose Compose Material. Now we have the same setup before, but much quicker than doing it manually. I'll just move some of the nodes around to tidy up our space. Finally, let's add an output node to export our bitmaps to a specified folder. So what this will do is take all our maps in the Compose Material and export them as bitmaps for use in external applications. Before we do any exporting, let's add a few nodes to tweak our material. So let's add a Hue Saturation Node and add that between our albedo node. That way we can tweak our color later on. I also want to add a levels node to the roughness. This time I'll just select the wire and then pick the levels node. This will add a node and maintain the existing connection. Lastly, we can add some frames to group the nodes. I'll drag select the first two nodes and click on the frame selection button. I'll choose a color and give it a useful name. We'll go and do this for the rest of the nodes. This is how a typical graph could look like, where we have a set of inputs, the middle are generation nodes and tweaks, all funneling into a Compose Material node. Then finally, an output node for export.